Hey guys, Misery here, back with another CZM video. And in today's video, we're going to be going over who you should be selecting for your character selector from the half anniversary. Before we get into the video and the video starts, I would like to announce that I have memberships on my channel now. If you want to join the channel and become a member, it's a monthly subscription. It's up to you, I'm totally not pressuring you, but if you do, I would very much appreciate it. And knowing that I'm helping you guys and seeing that you guys are loving the content. So yeah, I just wanted to state that before the video starts. Anyways, enjoy. And in today's video, I have special guest joining me. His name is Gordon. He's in all my guide videos. If you guys have seen those, very informative. He does a lot of testing. You know, he has every character at E6 and every 5-star partner in the game. Okay, getting straight into the tier list of where we ranked everybody on how valuable they are for the selector. So first off, of course, we have Veronica in double S tier. She is by far the best choice for the selector, best support in the game, just because we lack so much draw power. I don't think we've had a draw rate up. The best we've came close to was Typhara, and even then, like, she's draw neutral. Maybe with her convergence exhaust, she can draw 3, but you know, very niche. So Veronica is really good because she cycles through your entire decks and makes it super easy to get every card from your 3 entire decks.
So when you're drafting Veronica in your team, you're not really looking for her to do damage. You're mostly just helping cycle your deck. There's a lot of characters that need 8 or 9 cards in hand before they can start doing their combo, and Veronica's the only character that can easily go very positive. But the issue with Veronica is mostly just that repos cannot draw into another repos unless you have a draw divine on the repos. She will have some inconsistency issues, but she's gonna be overall the best pick for majority of players if you don't have her. None of her dupes matter.
Yeah, Veronica mainly is not there for DPS, but she can do sub DPS and chip damage with her ballista if you do keep her firing preparation. At the end of the turn, you can, you know, get some nice chip damage for like 3k 4k crits on ballistas, which makes her really good because she supports but also can do some damage. And then moving on to the next tier we have, which is S tier. So slightly worse than the Veronica tier because Veronica is just so good, she has her own tier. But S tier, we have Orlea. So the reason Orlea is really good is because she has multiplicative buffs. So she's really good for units with like just a huge nuke of one card, like Kayron's Black Hole. Makes it really good for Orlea.
Why multi is good? It's not because of multi-hit, right? Like, let's say I have a multi-hit of like 6, but the base damage of that card is like 200. Let's say, for instance, Haru, right? Haru has 12 hits per turn with her retrieve, but the base damage of that card is like more than 400, right? So you would want multi on it, even though you hit multiple times. Morale is good for low multiplier cards because let's say a card has a base multiplier of 50. If you add a morale onto it, you can treat that as a 40% multi. Morale is relative to the base damage of the card, not relative to how many hits a character does. You can have really high multipliers and hit a lot of time. Let's say a character only does like 50%, but they do one time, right? Like, would you rather have morale or multi? Like, you would rather have morale still because the multiplier is low.
Yeah, it just happens to be that most units that do a lot of hits, like, their multipliers are low. So like, you know, Luke's bullets, Serenio's lasers, you know, units that spam a lot. But in theory, yes, multi, you know, depending on the base modifier, it, you know, depends.
Orlea's the only 5-star support in the standard unit. You can use any DPS, right? It doesn't really matter. For seasonal content like Rift, you're gonna be wanting to use the rate up. Like, they design it based off of the rate up. But Orlea is always going to be usable because she's a support and she can potentially slot into future characters, right? Like, you're not gonna slot in Kayron to Diana, vice versa. She's more future proof.
Yeah, with the selector, there are a lot of DPS. Like, we basically put almost every DPS at B tier just because, you know, like, there's so many DPS in this game with how many rate ups we've got. So it makes supports way more valuable. And that's just how it goes for gacha games. Like, supports are always on top. DPS is what rakes in the money for gacha games. So, you know, devs always want to keep making new DPS, but they don't want to make as much support because, you know, supports, depending on how good they are, they can just be used with any DPS. So like, somebody won't want to pull the new DPS if like they're just fine with like a support that's just really good for their old DPS.
Hugo is really good, not just for damage. Like, Hugo does amazing damage, mostly passively. His team requirements is a little different because he needs skill cards into attacks. You need to really balance that ratio, but you don't even have to use him for his commence the hunt. He has 2 epiphanies that are good for drawing. Quick Fix has an epiphany that's a draw 2. You can get a cost reduction on it to make it 0 cost draw 2, and unlike repos, you can quick fix into another quick fix because it's not other combatants cards. So he has more consistency with being able to cycle the entire deck. Hugo got a lot of benefits from being able to remove epiphany cards for free because previously Hugo had a pretty bad epiphany card, Fan of Daggers, but now you can just remove it. And then Hugo has another draw card in his deck called Dingle Howling. There's an upgrade that makes it so that every time you gain Commence the Hunt once per turn you draw one attack card. Yeah, Hugo just has a lot of draw and does more damage than Veronica, but he isn't as valuable as Veronica just because he's a little more niche on what teams he can be on. And if you want to just use him for drawing, you do need to farm a divine deck. Like for Veronica, you could just base Epiphany repose. You don't need to look for a divine. Not only is Hugo harder to build, but his draw cannot get AP on it because it already costs 1. Veronica can at least facilitate gaining AP on her repose, which turns her into a AP battery as well. So Veronica has more use cases than Hugo.
And then next we have Khalipe in A tier. So the reason why Khalipe is A tier is because, of course, like she's really good, but like if you have 9, then you're not really gonna need Khalipe. But Khalipe is really good for chaos runs. You know, she has really good shield, survivability, a lot of AoE, so you know you can clear those waves very fast, and just a solid option all around. And then moving on to B tier, starting off we have Kayron. As you guys know, I love Kayron and he's my favorite character, but you know, he is B tier. He's not that valuable to select from the selector, mainly because he has like a huge learning curve for the average person. The average person is gonna find Kayron confusing, and a lot of people think he needs dupes to work. His dupes just honestly make him easier to play. He doesn't need dupes to work. He's gonna have a huge learning curve, so you know, people are gonna want those dupes to make him easier to play and understand. But he needs to be played specifically to unlock his full potential is the thing. So you know, he's very sequence heavy. You gotta time his cards right, play them in a specific order, and a lot of people would just rather, you know, use a DPS that's easy to use and you can spam, maybe like Luke, Serennial, Diana. And yeah, I think Kayron would move up to A tier if you're using the selector specifically for his E3. Otherwise, I would put him at B tier. But yeah, where Kayron is ranked right now also affects where Bria is going to be ranked in my next video, because I'm doing a separate video on the partner selector too, not just the character selector. But we rank Bria in the second highest tier, not the highest tier for the partners, just because at an endgame level, when you're playing Kayron, you're going to be wanting to cycle through your entire 3 decks. Bria and his E3 don't really get as much value because you're not going to have any futility or cards in your graveyard, because you want to cycle your entire 3 decks. You don't want to clog your deck. You want to cycle it every turn. So yeah, that's why like Bria and Kayron's E3 kind of loses value at endgame if you're playing very efficiently. But for the average person, Kayron's E3 and Bria are good crutches to make him easier to play and understand more.
It's a vibe tier list, honestly, for the B tier. You can pick any of these. It doesn't matter. The only reason why I have Luke this high is just because his ceiling is high and I like creating a ton of bullets. I think out of all the standard DPSs, he is my favorite by far. The mechanic of elasticity doesn't really hurt him that much because you don't need to play around Dance of the Demon. You can still play around Rapid Fire.
And then for Mei Lin, I was debating whether to put Mei Lin in C tier along with Magna, just because, you know, the past like 5-4 months, every piece of new content we've had has countered Mei Lin, making her not as good for newer content. She is still usable for stuff like Tower of Screams, Chaos runs, you know, stuff like that, even Basin. But you know, she really gets like a ton of value knocked off just because she can't be used in newer content. So you know, I think for those game modes I said, she's B tier, but in terms of, you know, usability, I feel like she's C tier.
So with Rin, she's probably my second favorite standard DPS in the game because I really like the look of her Black Dance. Only issue Rin has right now is there isn't really content that she's great in, and she does need Narja to reduce the cost of her Annihilation and Black Dance, or she needs a AP Divine on her Destruction because she doesn't have enough AP in the turn to facilitate playing 4 Destruction to turn. So you're going to play Annihilation, Black Dance, you're going to move them back into your hand with your Destruction. That's 10 AP per turn that you need, right? So easiest way to do that is with Narja, just using Bottomless Hunger, reducing the cost of them. She is going to be better this season because we get to go back to previous seasons and pick up cards. This is important for Rin mostly because she has issues with making sure her Black Dance hits as many times as possible. We can facilitate high amounts of Black Dance hits by drafting Eternal Hunger on every single one of the characters in that team. So we can always guarantee at least 3 hits on a Black Dance. Rin right now just doesn't do great with a lot of the morale bots. Like if we take a look at Cassius, a lot of his morale comes from Devil Dice, Neutral Epiphany, +2 morale. She can't be played with Cassius because she needs to only play her own attack cards. So her team building choice is a little limited. She doesn't really have the best morale bots in the game right now. The best morale bot for Rin is probably Beryl, but the issue with drafting Beryl is that after you're done using all your card draw, you have nothing else. So her consistency of cycling the entire deck lowers a lot. And then, you know, you're using Narja as well. So you're not positive at all. Narja cannot go positive. Probably in the future when there's a actual draw support, she'll be better, but I'm not holding my breath for that.
And then moving on to Renoa. So you may be thinking, wouldn't Renoa be better now that Diana's in the game? That's actually not the case. Renoa's best team is actually without Diana, and same goes for Diana. Diana. Diana's best team is without Renoa. Renoa and Diana both want Nia, but they also want a morale bot for the 3rd slot. Renoa's best team is still, you know, her best team as it was before Diana was in the game.
The gameplay of flooding your deck has reduced in value because of how thin our decks are now. Like the season 2 of mechanic of being able to remove a ton of your epiphany cards. Her gameplay is a problem, if that makes sense.
And then lastly, we have Magna. Of course, you know, Magna, everybody hates Magna, so we put her in C tier. No, I'm just joking.
True, no one likes Magna.
There was someone actually on my Discord server who used the Omega Codex on Magna, and I was just like, brother. But I mean, as long as they're happy, you know, do not listen to me and Gordon. It doesn't matter what we think if you're just playing the game for fun. Go with who you like the most, what you're gonna have the most fun with.
I mean, she's not awful. Honestly, if you like Magna, she's probably better than Renoa and Rin, because she can at least be like a passive vulnerable bot. The issue with being a passive vulnerable bot is she doesn't apply vulnerable unless boss attacks her. Sometimes she's not even applying vulnerable and does nothing.
And another thing that's, you know, bad about Magna, the multiplier on counterattack is just so low. It's not really that valuable. And, you know, like she revolves around counterattacks. You want her to counterattack.
You need to like quadruple the counterattack damage for it to even matter. Like I have a pretty well-built Magna right now. I'm like critting for like 2,000. You know, her potential 7 is really good. You get 12% elemental damage from it. Not even a good potential 7 can save this character.
I already know the Magna mans are gonna be in the comments, bro, typing. But yeah, that's gonna be the video for the 5-star character selector, our tier list for it on what you should pick. This is all base copies. There is no dupes in this. This is just a standard copy, assuming you don't have the unit already. Let me know down in the comments what you guys are gonna be picking, if you're gonna be getting a new unit with it, if you already have every 5-star and you're gonna go for a dupe. You know, just let me know what your thoughts are so far on the half anniversary. And yeah, that's gonna be the video. If it was informative or helpful, I'd very much appreciate you support the channel. Until the next video, I hope you guys take care, peace, and be safe.